One of the sadder pieces of news this year has been the breaking of the railroad strike, forcing workers to take a contract. Now, essentially what they were asking for was paid sick days, which is not much to ask for and is actually fairly common in many higher paying jobs. Now, there has been much going on behind the scenes as this was taking place, and the man who was the public face of the struggle is now being punished by his employer. Devin Mance, the man who went to Congress to demand sick days, is being assaulted by the railroad company BNSF. All of a sudden, he's being accused by his employer of stealing time from the company. The accusation has little or no evidence, as one might expect. The accusation is not likely to work, and the company would end up spending vast amount in damages. The accusation is that he entered more hours than he actually worked, but there is an extensive trail showing that he did enter the proper number of hours. Here's what was said according to The Intercept. On November 30th, Mance entered a workday of 7:30 a.m. to 3:30 p.m., but he and two others with their work finished decided to leave at 12:35. That afternoon, he was promoted to track inspector and no longer had access to the internal system. He would need to tweak his hours. On Friday, December 2nd, he emailed his timekeeper, as he had done before, to correct the record and have just under 3 hours docked from his paycheck. She confirmed the receipt of the email and said she would make the adjustment. Now the company is accusing him of not having reported that change in hours. Now the hearing is set for January 5th. It was scheduled for the 15th of December, but they moved it to the 5th. Now, this all comes right when he was a public face for striking for sick days. Now, originally, the Biden administration had forced a contract onto those workers, and he worked with the two representatives from Congress to develop a strategy to counter it. Now suddenly he finds himself accused of wrongdoing, and by his own words he says it's very unlikely that they would actually get any kind of victory over him. They would actually end up having to pay him damages for having made a clearly false allegation. So what we're looking at is one of the oldest, most purest forms of worker strikes in history. A railroad worker strike, demanding something as simple as being allowed to get sick. You couldn't get any more of a very classic old school example of striking. But it's so interesting that because this is so old school, because this is such a classic example of worker action, it lets us know that it's still happening to this day. Even now, 100 years removed from when a lot of these strikes took place, people are still striking for the exact same things that people striked for back then. And that no matter what any kind of right-wing think tank may claim, the contradiction between capital and labor is still there. And that the pettiness of capitalist institutions and the capitalists who run them knows no bounds. One of their biggest laments through history was the workers allegedly not following the law, say, partially referring to wildcat strikes. And that they demanded that the rule of law be placed and that everybody should have to follow it. Yet what do we see here? Them refusing to follow it. But you see how the more things change, the more they stay the same. That even to this day, something as simple as being allowed to get sick is something that they have to fight for. That even the most basic demands from a century ago are still not being met. And that should give you a pretty good indication of where we are right now. That essentially ain't nothing changed. Thank you for watching. If you like this program, then please head over to my Patreon page and set up a monthly donation. It's your donations that keep this program running. Also, if you would like, please rate, comment, subscribe, and share in various social media.